Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I certainly appreciate all of my colleagues who have spoken today and proposed amendments that I supported that I do wish that more of my colleagues had supported. I thought they were both good amendments. But, I mean, we've been in this pandemic now in the state of Connecticut for 705 days. I remember the day when I turned on the television and Mayor Boughton and Governor Lamont were on TV talking about the first COVID positive case within our state's borders. Now, at the time, we didn't know a whole heck of a lot about the disease. We've certainly learned more about it in those 705 days. But what we know now is certainly that people's lives have changed, many for the worse. Not necessarily because of the disease itself, but because of the things that were caused by the disease. Now, I had a great aunt who died ultimately because of coronavirus. But you know, when we look at people in our district, in our state, and across our nation, I mean, you see so much frustration from employers who can't find help, or people calling out. Because of, at a time because of generous government benefits and getting those employees back or getting people to come back to work has been a nightmare. We see it with shipping issues. We see it in retail. We see it in restaurants. And restaurants were one of the worst affected businesses in our state and many other states, and we're so reliant on that tourism economy. We talked before about landlords. These are people who have invested time and money into renting out properties, and they were, to be perfectly honest, taken advantage of in the name of COVID. Now, are there always people that are exceptions? Of course, and there were definitely people that couldn't work or afraid to work, and I understand that, but 705 days is a long time, and some landlords still aren't out of this yet because of the restrictions placed on them by the government. Our own capital. I mean, it's strange that no lobbyists or constituents or anybody is up here aside from us. And we went through a year of that last year, and we had a year before that where we really didn't do much of anything because of the coronavirus. So people couldn't have access to their government in the way that this building was designed. We've seen people all over the country more reliant on government. And that is, in my view, one of the great failures of this COVID-19 crisis, is people now are waiting for government to tell them when it's safe to go outside, for government to tell them where you can shop, where you can't shop, for government to tell them, what this disease is all about and what's next and what they need to do. And it's time that people get back to normal. 705 days. Now, the Governor Lamont yesterday said, Connecticut residents have earned our freedom. And there's government saying, you've earned it. I mean, we earned our freedom a long time ago, and it's one of those things that I can't believe we're waiting on government to say, you've earned that freedom. There's just something that puts a bad taste in my mouth, and it's certainly put a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. And one of the worst things about this pandemic, and I know this, of course, this was a horrible time. I got vaccinated. I actually got COVID afterwards, and I was very nervous for my family, and I know a lot of people were nervous. But like I keep saying, 705 days is a long time. We've seen our neighboring states move at a different pace. But our kids, and I think that's obviously been the focus of today and a focus of, people coming up here and expressing their voice outside yesterday, is the effect all of this has had on our children, our future. Connecticut has always been a great state for public education. And I don't know if we fully realize, or when we will fully realize, how this has affected our kids and our teachers. The learning loss that has happened because of this has to be astronomical, particularly in school districts that were already struggling more. And I don't know when we're going to see those results. Literacy rates or math rates that need to be more competitive with other countries, that are quickly becoming more competitive with us. The absenteeism in a lot of districts that were given computers very generously, but didn't log on. And you can't blame the children. A lot of kids are in situations where school was more than just logging onto a computer. School was a place for safety, was a place for food, was a place for warmth, was a place for a lot of things. And that was taken away. The mental and physical toll that this has had on our kids, which we've heard about over and over again today, but there are certainly mental health issues that are going to pop up because of this. Fear that's going to pop up, stress, anxiety. We've seen a rise in childhood obesity because of this, which will lead to additional problems. Substance abuse is on the rise because of children and people being inside too long and getting anxious and needing a way to cope with that. All of these things that have happened because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Like I said, though, 705 days ago, and on the 704th day, the governor says, "Don't worry, you've earned your freedom." I worry now what will happen after this. Will boards of ed be inundated, and will there be disagreements in communities? Because there will be boards of ed who are going to struggle. And I worry about those members. They are volunteers trying to do what they think is best for their community. And there are many parents who want what's best for their children. And if those are at odds, I worry about what will happen in those communities. The boards of ed shouldn't be in charge of this. Like we've all said, it should be the parents. It should be the individuals who are in charge of whether or not to wear a mask, not the boards of ed. Passing that on to them is not the solution at all. The solution is very simple. It is to vote this down and move on. Other states have done it. Connecticut can do it. I just cannot believe we're going to do this again and again and again. It's time to rip the Band-Aid off. It's going to happen eventually. Why can't it happen now? And I hope my colleagues across this chamber will stand up for checks and balances and vote no, and let's get back to work and back to normal. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.